Well, welcome to Ask a Responsive Fundraiser, where we take your questions to a fundraising expert so that ultimately you can grow generosity. Today, we're taking your questions to the president of A Direct Solution, Erica Waasdorp. Erica is a leading expert in monthly giving, an author, and a sought-after speaker. With decades of experience in direct response fundraising, Erica helps nonprofits grow sustainable revenue through donor-focused strategies and international fundraising expertise. Additionally, she's a published author, including Monthly Giving, The Sleeping Giant, and Monthly Giving Made Easy. Erica, thanks for taking the time to answer some questions today.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll jump into the first one here, and it's this. We're struggling to grow our monthly giving program at a healthy pace. We've tried different approaches, but it feels like we're not gaining traction. So, how can we build a sustainable program that keeps donors engaged long term?
Great question. Yeah, like keeping donors engaged in the long term, that's what monthly giving is obviously all about. So, what I find with many organizations, and it doesn't even matter if they're like small, mid-size, or large, is that they just don't give it enough time.
Mm,
So sometimes they're like, oh, yeah, this is great. It's January. Let's do like a monthly giving campaign, and then we get busy doing all of these other things, right? So it's really like monthly giving. It's like you want them to become sustainable, so you have to. It's almost like you have to constantly plant those seeds, constantly plant the plugs,
yeah.
because one appeal might not cut it. But when you send a follow up, when you send another follow up, people are like going to finally wake up and say, "Oh yeah, I've been thinking about that. Oh yeah, let me consider becoming a monthly donor, right?
Yeah.
Making that gift." So it's like, and sometimes people are like, "Yeah, well, we tested it for 2 weeks. We did 2 emails," and it's like, well, you really haven't given it enough time to do that. So, and I think, with a lot of the tools that are in place now, it's it's a matter of like looking at your communications plan and say, where can I build in these opportunities,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of times it's like really like, okay, what have you done? So that's like, obviously we want to evaluate like, what have you done? But then it's like, what else could you be doing that you may not have tried? Okay.
Mm,
To give you an example, an organization that they said, well, let's test a monthly giving button on a homepage.
okay.
Well, and it's a button, right? How much can that do? Well, guess what? It doubled the number of monthly donors that they were generating from
Wow.
those donors that were going to the homepage. Okay,
Wow.
so that's that. It's a button, right? So, and the same with like add a button in your emails. Right? I know, and people are like, well, I don't know if that's going to hurt my one time response. The reality is, yeah, test it. And then if it doesn't hurt, what do you have to lose by adding a button?
Yeah.
Take a look at what other organizations are doing. I mean, the World Visions of the world. I mean, American Heart Association, some of those organizations that they always have like two buttons in their emails.
Yeah.
Give now, give monthly, kind of like that same principle that I just described on the homepage,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I was talking to one organization, and they when they do an appeal, they might get a few people that like they go to their one-time donation page and then say, yes, make this a recurring gift. But when they had the two buttons in their email, all of a sudden they got like 27 new monthly donors,
Wow.
right? So, maybe for you that might not be that many, but hey, it's 27 more than what you used to get, right?
Yeah.
So, or 25 more than what you used to get, right? So it's like take a look at some of those what I call like low hanging fruit areas
Yeah.
that don't cost you a dime,
Right.
right? You're already sending the email, right? You've already got the home. So and see where that gets you,
Yeah.
right? And then kind of like say, okay, well, what else am I sending to my donors? Are you doing a welcome email? Well, have you considered adding a welcome email, PS? or another button, right? Or like the offer to become a monthly donor in there, right? I've seen like we're in the new year, so I've seen a number of organizations that did updates on how 2024 went and how the donor has made a difference, right? Again,
Yep.
one time, and then several of them put a button in the bottom, like say, become a monthly donor,
Yeah.
or a PS, like, have you, we want to keep this going,
That's
right? We
good.
want to
Yeah.
create lasting change, right? It's a button, it's an email, it's something you're already doing, right? So again, before you start saying, well, we got to do this expensive campaign, no, you take a look and see where can I build in things.
Yeah.
Do you have a print newsletter? Do you have a piece on monthly giving in your print newsletter? Do you have an e-news? Do you have a little blurb every e-news asking about monthly giving, right? So
Yeah.
it's again, if you're communicating, if you're committed to growing it, it will happen.
Yeah. That's
It's not a big thing.
yeah.
It's a lot of little things.
Yeah, and I
Eh,
think that's what's so helpful is a lot of little things, look at the low-hanging fruit and then have
yes.
patience, right? Like
Have
look
patience.
at
Yes.
we're going to implement these things and stick with them before,
Yeah.
really evaluating. That's so helpful.
Yeah.
All right, question
And
number
yeah. Yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
No,
Yeah.
question number 2 is this. We've noticed a lot of churn in our monthly giving program, and it's hard to keep up with failed payments, cancellations. So, what are some of the ways that we can stabilize recurring giving donations and reduce donor drop off?
Great question. So the first thing I recommend, and you'd be amazed as how few people actually do this, but is map out your process.
Okay.
So what happens and where do things go? So in other words, like if a donor's payment doesn't come in, right? How long does it take you to find that out?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so that's like, so literally like map and saying, okay, well, this donor's payment doesn't come in. Where does it go? Oh, finance has it. Or, yeah, okay. All right. Oh, I finally hear about it a week later. Or, again, take a look at your donor base
Yeah.
or your payment platform and saying, can they send a message ahead of time before a card expires? So really know what your system can do. So that's the next step. So map out your process, then know what your system does automatically.
Yeah.
And when you think it does automatically, but it actually doesn't.
Yeah.
So, because again,
Very
that
important.
happens a lot of times as well. Like, oh, I thought it was sending an email. Okay, well, I guess we decided to turn that off 2 years ago and we never
Yeah.
turned it back on, right?
Yeah.
Lot of process and operational things, and they know they're not sexy, it's not fun, but I mean, I can still get really excited about it, but because that's where the rubber meets the road, right?
Right.
Because retention is the new acquisition, right? so
That's
so
good.
again, you got to retain those sustainable, but if you don't know what your system does and what your process is and who does it, then start there.
Yeah.
And then again, what can your system automate? Right? A lot of great things that, email series that you can automate that maybe 2 years ago you were not able to do that, but now your system can do it,
Yeah.
right? So definitely make sure that you turn those things on. If you have credit card updater, a lot of donor bases have that, payment platforms have that. Make sure that that is turned on, right? So those are just a couple of things. And then again, this sounds really silly, but track it.
Yeah.
Again, it's all about tracking as well. So once you've figured out what the process is, track how many monthly donors are you losing, right? Well, what is that worth?
Mm.
I mean, I always kind of like say, annualize the value of those donors that are at risk,
Right.
right? So what's the amount at risk? So if you figure industry wide about $25 a month, right? So one monthly donor is worth $300 a year.
Yeah.
If you have 10 of those at $3,000 a year, that is at risk. Okay, so it may be worth saying, okay, after you map out the process, oh, I'm not picking up the phone.
Yeah.
I'm not sending an email. oh, I'm not sending a letter because, again, because the reality is people are busy,
Right.
donors are busy, right?
Right.
We forget. I mean, I just got two new credit cards like last week. I haven't reached out to the organization saying, hey, guess what? I've got a new card.
Right.
So just like map it out and then add something that maybe you're not yet doing.
Okay.
Because it is, again, keeping these donors, and it's really important to remember that, because people say, well, I don't want to be a nag, right? You're not a nag, right?
Right.
The donor has not told you that they want to stop.
Yeah.
Their card expired or they got a new card for whatever reason, right?
Yeah.
So you're not a nag by reminding them gently that you care about them. You want to make sure that everything's okay, and you're reaching out to them, and whether that's email, phone, letter, card,
Yeah.
all of these different things till you eventually get a hold of them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because
So,
ultimately they at one point have expressed interest, desire to support your mission
yes,
and what you're doing. So it's actually helpful to let them know, hey, this thing that you wanted to contribute to, it's not happening
yes.
because of this. I think that's a
Yes.
really, really good
I have
point.
one client, they're amazing at tracking. They're tracking every single thing. And again, one of the things is that people are like, well, I'm worried that they just really want to cancel. They're just not telling me, right? And the reality is, no, 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 no. The number of people that actually really cancels when you finally come down to it's like 3% or
Yeah.
something like that. It's not very big, right?
Yeah.
So meanwhile, you've given up on, 97% by not doing anything,
Yeah.
right? So I think that's like really, really key. And again, if you think about like recapturing them and retaining them with that long term, like that at least that 1 year value. I mean, if you know that monthly donors are worth they stay with you for like 8 years on average, right?
Yeah.
So if you do it that way, oh my God, you have a lot of like money that is at risk if you don't take action. So
That's great.
so again, don't give up too soon
Yeah.
because the other piece is some systems they might only send one reminder. Others, and then it's done,
Yeah.
right? So you just
Yeah.
make sure that you know that what happens. And then I think the other thing is when you do talk to them or when you reach out to an email, if you can accept electronic funds transfer, EFT, direct debit,
Yeah.
and you can direct somebody to sign up, online by after their card expired, well, get them to convert to EFT and you never have to worry about those pesky credit cards expiring ever again,
Yeah.
right?
That's a good call.
So most tools they offer that now.
Yeah.
So again, take a look at it and think, "Oh, I never thought about doing that, but you can build that in."
Yeah. That's fantastic. All right. Well, we're going to jump into one more question. This one is changing gears just a bit and talking about how to approach changing technology. It says this: we're thinking about switching to a new CRM, but the transition process makes us nervous. So, how do you go about choosing the right platform and setting yourself up for success without disrupting donor relationships?
Yeah, great question. Boy, first of all is I think that you don't want to change your CRM just because something looks more cool than what you're getting now.
Mm.
Because I know sometimes people like a board member says, "Well, yeah, but I saw this thing and it looks really cool." Okay,
Yeah.
or I
Shiny
get this
object.
dashboard, and then it's like, okay, well, yeah, but so do your due diligence. And make sure that all of your users, everybody that touches the donor, that they're involved in like helping choose the tool the new donor base. I mean, there's consultants out there that can help you guide through that process. And then, I mean, in my 42 years of working in direct marketing and fundraising, I've seen a lot of databases, right? So, and I've worked on transitioning a few of them, but it's also important to, talk to other organizations. What are they using? What do they like about it? But especially what don't they like about what they have
Mm.
now?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I think the other thing is again, make an inventory and saying, what do we like about what we have now? What don't we like about what we have now? And then what do we think is missing,
Yeah.
right? And then what are some of the tools that are out there that can offer you what's missing? And again, obviously, how important is that, right? So, you don't need to use, I mean, you don't need to change platforms or donor-based CRMs just because it's there's one thing you can't do, because a lot of things can be done by integration right
Yeah.
nowadays, right? So but I think that those are, so hire somebody that can help you with the process. Make a list of really what you need and what are nice to haves, right? Because
Yeah.
I can tell you, converting is a bear.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is, especially if you have a number of recurring donors, making sure that that process is pretty seamless, because the donor always, I mean, like I've seen things where an organization says, well, we just moved to a more secure platform, and you're like, oh my God, what does that mean before? Ooh,
Yeah.
so
Right.
don't ever say that to a donor, right? So don't make it
Yeah.
about technology, because the donor is going to assume that you treat their information right,
Yeah.
right? So don't ever throw in systems or things like
Yeah.
that when you're talking to donors, right? What you talk internally, I don't really care, but
Yeah.
never talk to the donor saying, "Well, we've moved to a more PCI compliant tool."
Yeah.
Okay, so what were
Well,
you doing before? So
yeah.
that's a little concerning.
Yeah, and I think too, really thinking through what does scalability look like
Yes.
for the next three,
Yeah.
4, 5, 10 years, and understanding we're in a hyper personalized digital first culture, and are you
Yes.
setting yourself up for success in that, given the
Yeah.
tool that you're using?
And also, I mean, there is no such thing as free.
Yeah,
So I know there's some tools out there that say we're free, but then
you get what you
that,
pay for.
yeah, and I mean, I work with a lot of organizations that have like some of these very elaborate, like, like, I don't want to mention the name because I hate it. So, and it's because it's really not a donor base, it's more like a tracker of information.
Yeah,
So and again, there's so many wonderful, and Virtuous is one of those, right? You have automations and whatever. So there's a lot of great donor-based CRMs out there that can scale with organizations that don't require a lot of like IT
right.
support or development, which again, that's a really important thing to look at. Like how, because some of these big organizations, they have some of these bears of donor bases, and they have a heavy IT department to
Yeah,
support it, and then they never get what they want because everything has to be programmed, right? So,
yeah,
so
yeah,
everything that's like, so talk talk with others and see what they like and don't like. So
yeah. That's great. Well, Erica, we really are thankful for you, the advice that you give, the wisdom, the experience, and being able to share it with people today. So thank you so much for taking some time and speaking with us.
you're welcome.